Shedrick, what's going on,
What's
brother?
going on, bro? How are you?
Man, pretty good, man. Doing all right, man. Like, how's the weather where you at?
It's good. Good. I'm in Chicago. I just got here today.
Okay, yeah, man. Shout out, man, in the house, man. Just before I even say anything, we'll give big shouts to Miss B for putting this interview together. You know what I'm saying? Much respect to the Queen. But yeah, I want to give you flowers, man. I was reading your bio. I said, this brother put in a lot of work, man,
Yeah,
over the years.
yeah. No, I've been outside for a little minute now.
Yeah. It's like, it's like before the term even became like the whole thing and stuff.
Yeah.
But I want to start off, your early the early beginnings of your career. Now, you've been in business for 25 years, if I'm correct on that, right?
Yeah. Actually, 30.
30?
30.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, growing up as a kid, what was your inspirations, what you want to do as a child?
So I got introduced to music by my parents, both mom and dad, at an early age, and not thinking that I wanted to go professional, but I took one piano lesson and loved it, and I knew that's all I wanted to do for the rest of my life. But at the end of the day, there was no real structure as to how to get to that. You know what I'm saying? So, my parents had me study with some of the best teachers that were in St. Louis, and the teachers that I had were excellent, and they were they my inspiration. That kind of put me on my journey.
Yeah, it is good to have parents that install, that in you, especially something that you wanna do in your career, that they invest into it and stuff without be like, nah, you can't do that. But when God give you a blessing,
Yeah,
hey, don't block it.
yeah,
Because that can
no.
really mess a child's head up and stuff. Now, as you got older, by the time you got to high school, by the time you got like 18 years old, what direction do you want to go in, or when you was a young adult at that time?
So um, by the time I reached 18 and was leaving, finishing up high school, I knew that music was all I wanted to do, and had already really started playing professionally in St. Louis. So the next move, coming from leaving, playing, because I'm a pastor's son. So it was for me to get to New York City, and I was told, if you want to make it, or if you think you're somebody, you got to be able to do it in New York. So I was tunnel vision, as to how I needed to get to New York. So coming out of high school, that was the only place for me to go. And I ended up going to Manning School of Music in New York City, and the rest was history at that point.
Yeah. So what was it like when you went there? What was like the keys and tools you learned? Being there for a while.
So one of the things, one of my mentors, who's now deceased, the late great Mulgrew Miller, he kind of took me under his wing prior when I was in high school. So by the time I got to New York, he just, always told me just to surround myself with people, who are better than me. You know what I'm saying? And be around persons that will always be teaching me. So, I always found myself playing with the older musicians because they were schooling me on how to conduct myself out on the road, how to prepare myself with music, and just, giving me the craft, what I'm saying, to have the longevity in the music that I've now, I mean, I moved to New York when I was 19, now at 50 years old, what I'm saying, I'm still out here, doing it and have been consistent, thank God.
Absolutely. Now, like, was your parents kind of like, I would say like, paranoid, but kind of worried, you being young, being like living in like a different state?
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
They tell me that my mom and dad cried for about a month straight every day because I had left and kind of tried to find my way, moving to the greatest, what I consider the greatest city in the world.
Yeah. Now, correct me on this. Your first big break was working with Whitney Houston, or was that before that?
It was kind of before that. That was like, I mean, of course, that's like the international big break. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? But like one of my big breaks, kind of started working with saxophonist Kenny Garrett. You know,
Okay.
because when
Yeah.
I moved, to New York, to be able to get that call from him, like he is still one of the jazz masters, and to get that opportunity at 20 years old, people was like, well, man, how did this guy just get to New York? And already he's moved past a lot of other musicians that that have been here for years, and
Yeah.
that's what you call the good favor of the Lord. You know what I'm saying? Just helping me to, navigate through, all the great musicians that are in the city.
Absolutely. Now you work on a track called "Simply Said" off his album.
I did. I did.
Yeah, yeah. How did that joint came about?
So at that time, I had already been touring with him for maybe like 2 years, and at the time, he was just like, "Yo, I want my new band to go into the studio and record my next project." So here we are, 98 and 99. We went into the studio, recorded. He even allowed me to write a song on his project. So that was a big break for me as well too.
Well, so from there, so go from Key to Gary. You work with Dee Dee Bridgewater,
Hmm.
Christian McBride,
Yep.
Terrence Blanchard, Antonio Hart,
Yeah.
Johnny Griffin, Diane Reeves, and others. You was like on the road, man. Like I
Yeah.
know the phone call like ringing.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, at that point in my life, I was kind of like a jazz purist. Like I didn't want to do anything except play jazz.
Yeah,
And then it was like 2003, I had gotten a call that, there might be an opportunity to play for Whitney Houston. But because I was again such a jazz purist, I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to go out with a pop singer. I respected what she
yeah.
did, but I just didn't know that I wanted to do that or that was, going to be. And, God bless him, the guy, the music director, Michael Baker at the time, uh, told me, he was like, well, if you're interested in doing it, it pays 8 a week. And I was like, man, how could pop music as big as she is be paying $800 a week? And I was just like, ugh.
That's
So he
crazy.
was like, no. He was like, no, not 800, 8,000. Man, I told everybody that I was playing jazz with, hey man, I'll see y'all later. The jazz community, the jazz community see me for damn near almost a decade. You know what I'm saying? Because I was
Oh
touring with
man.
her. Yeah, no, but that was kind of the start of me really venturing off to play pop music and opening myself up to do other things. You know what I'm saying? Besides just playing jazz and gospel, which everybody kind of knew me for playing jazz and gospel music.
Yeah, especially when people look at Sal, like like maybe Holly Hill, said and see what could work out. Especially when you that's what the people realize in this business. Like you gotta open your eyes up to new opportunities. You never know. You don't want to block your blessings. Being on stage with her, what was it like? Learning her style of music, as far as like how she wants certain keys and certain notes done.
Yeah, she was an incredible artist to work with. And of course, she got ripped in the media a lot of times, you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, the woman that I knew her to be was an angel, you know what I'm saying? And with some of the legends like the Roberta Flack and some, and even Angie Stone leaving us now, man, I still wish Whitney was still around because she loved to laugh, she loved to hang out. What people don't know is, her brother Gary used to play for the Denver Nuggets, and so
Oh, okay.
anytime we were in any city, we would rent a gym and play ball. Well, guess who would be there playing ball with us on in the shoot around?
With
Whitney Houston would, so she was that cool chick that could hang out and rock out with the guys. You know what I'm saying? But she was girly as well too. You know what I'm saying? So she'd be like, all right, I wouldn't play ball with y'all. I ready to go shoe shopping. So y'all got to come and hang out with me. You know what I'm saying? So. But
yeah,
man, as it pertains to her musically, man, when she was in good voice, I understood why arguably she was considered the greatest voice, of her time. You know what I'm saying? Because when she was all the way on. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. Yeah, when you got that call, or how'd you find the news of a passing after that?
say that one more time.
That's it. Like, when did you get the call, or how did you find out? When she passed away?
So it's funny. My boy Derek Hodge. I was in Bloomington, Illinois, and it's funny. I'm in Chicago now. Kind
Yeah.
of in around this time, my kids were running for an indoor national track event, and Derek called me. He was just like, he's like, man, what are you doing? And I was like, man, I'm in Illinois. My kids are running uh, a national indoor national track meet. And he was like, well, man, are you sitting down? And I was like, what you mean? What am I sitting down? He was like, man, I just got news. It's all over the news that Whitney is dead. I said, man, do you know how many times I've heard that and been sitting right next to her? You know what I'm saying? Because, the tabloids would say all
Yeah,
types of nasty things. And he was like, no, shit, like, it might be true. He was like, man, go check it out. So I made, the one call that I needed to make, and when they confirmed it, it was just like, damn,
yeah.
yeah, I was with my kids. We were at a restaurant. I could have probably fell out in the middle of the floor because I just could not believe what I was hearing at that time.
Yeah, I can imagine the same person you done laughed and joked with, had a good time. Also, just stop,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
couldn't go through there, My condolences to you, especially the history you got with the Queen.
yeah, yeah,
Now from there, now you was featured on the Oprah Winfrey Show with her.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So what was it like to be on an interesting talk show like that, like Oprah Winfrey?
Yeah, no, it was great. I mean, I hadn't, of course, never been on the Oprah Winfrey Show, but I had at that point I had did so many great shows with Whitney, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to say that it was just another show, but you know what I'm saying? It was
Yeah,
still just, I mean, we literally played for kings and queens, you know what I'm
yeah.
saying? So, to just be a part of, that show with her was amazing, man. And Whitney and Oprah were, the best of friends.
So for there, the opportunities kept coming. So you collaborate with Stevie Wonder, Jay-Z, and Maxwell. So starting with Stevie Wonder, man, the icon on top of icon, man. So when'd you get the word about Stevie Wonder called you to work with him?
Yeah. So my good friend Ricky Minor had called and said that he had recommended me to, do some playing for Stevie. So I was like, oh man, this is amazing. Again, to me, Whitney was like at the top of the food chain. And, of
Yeah,
course, Stevie is as well too. So, I get the call and he calls me. He was like, well, man, won't you come by my hotel room and, just to do some playing for me? So, again, people always ask me, Shedrick, do you get nervous? And I always would say, no, I never get nervous. Like, I mean, I've been doing it for so long that, nerves never hit me. I get to the Plaza Hotel in the city, and his assistant comes down this private elevator and said, Stevie wants you to come up. All of a sudden, I'm in this elevator, man. That little bead of sweat started coming down. My hands started getting clammy, and I was like, "Damn, I'm literally starting to get nervous for real out here." So, I get into his hotel room, and immediately he stands up, and he was just like, "What's up?" You know what I'm saying? So he greeted me, and so he was like, uh, well, you hear what you want to play for me? I was like, so now I'm really getting nervous. I'm just like, I don't know, man. So he was like, well, man, I already know you can play. So he was like, I just want to see if you know some of my songs. So I sat down. He had a keyboard in his room. I sit down. The first song I start to play, and I was like, I'm gonna choose something kind of easy. So I started playing "Ribbon in the Sky,"
Oh wow.
and I think I was three chords in, bro, and he stopped me. He was like, no, that's not quite it. And I was just like, you know what? I don't know what to play then. If I can't play Ribbon in the Sky, which I've been playing since middle school. So he was like, I had one particular note in the chord that he did not want to hear because Stevie's ears
Yeah.
are like, you can drop a needle and he'd probably hear it. Any rate,
Wow.
he stopped me, and then so I said, Stevie, man, I'm nervous now, man. I'm like, I don't know what to play. So he was like, you want to play some Giant Steps? So Giant Steps is a jazz tune. So now he was speaking my language. So
Yeah.
then at that point, I was like, okay, now I'm with you now. So we had a good time. So then he just gave at that point, he was like, well, man, I love your playing. Man, would you come and do the Super Bowl with me? So in 2007, he was part of the halftime show in Detroit
Okay.
for the Super Bowl. So that was my first introduction to Stevie. You know what I'm saying? Playing with him, and then I did some other shows with him,
Yeah.
and that's it.
what was it like to be at the? I mean, it's what you do at a concert, but at the Super Bowl, at a football game. I mean, what was it like just to even be in that, like, and stuff?
Man, the energy, and at that particular year, Pittsburgh was the Steelers were in there, and I forget who they were playing, but I know it was Jerome Bettis.
Yeah,
He won that particular year. But man, the energy in Detroit was absolutely amazing. You know what I'm saying? And to be on the field, and I got a chance to meet, the Jerry Rices, the Joe Name. I mean, like, all the heroes that I used to watch, because I played football as well. So some of the guys, Tony Dorsett, like, all they were all around. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? But no, the energy and doing it with Stevie, we pre-recorded the music and then we did the show, and it was an amazing show. Something that I still reflect back on today.
Wow. It's kind of like one of those type of things where you got a mindset what you want to do in your future when you grow up. But there's certain things that's pop. I say, dang, you know what? That would have been my bucket list.
Yeah,
But now since I did it, I ain't gotta.
yeah,
I was like, let me go ahead and check that out. Check that out
yeah,
tomorrow
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff. From there, you work with the business mogul Jay-Z, and how did that, a situation, came about?
Yeah, so it was being said that Jay-Z wanted a new band. This could have been like 2007, 2008. And again, all this while I still was with Whitney Houston. So, I mean, like, I would kind of like, she would maybe have some downtime, and I would go and work with Stevie. This time, I get the call to, that Jay-Z's looking for a new band. And, I had the opportunity to go in. This time, I think the movie American Gangster had just came out,
Okay.
and Jay had did the soundtrack for that. So I was with him during that time of American Gangster. Shout out to the Rock Boys in the building: Kenneth, Keon
Oh man.
Saunders, yeah, Tony Royster,
'Cause
yeah, Tony
if, if
Russell, yeah,
if I was mistaken, I think he did like an all night performance show off that album, and I think it was like a VH1 special. If I ain't mistaken, I think I remember that was like '07 or something like that. Yeah,
absolutely. You did on,
yeah.
bro.
Because
Yep,
I had to think about it for me. I said, I know, I do remember seeing that.
yep,
That's when he just came out of retirement and stuff
yep,
like that at the time. So okay,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
that was
no. So I
huge,
did I
man.
did that VH1 special, and or I don't know if it was VH1 or MTV Unplugged.
I, didn't, I want to say MTV or something, but VH1 picked it up
Oh,
later on down because I guess they
okay.
got like a joint deal. Well, MTV do own VH1, but yeah, it was MTV,
Yeah,
yeah, because that was huge,
yeah,
especially for someone like Jay-Z at the time and stuff.
yeah. No, so that
Okay.
was yeah, that was we rehearsed for a good minute for that, and then after that, we did a bunch of spot dates.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So okay, from there you work with man, another Grammy Award icon, Maxwell.
Oh yeah.
So man, you was like just cooking, man,
Yeah.
and stuff. So to go from doing the hip hop then back to kind of like a neo soul jazz vibe, your lane. So where'd you get the call with working with
You,
Maxwell?
you You asking all the good questions, bro. The right questions. So I'll never forget my boy Chris Dave called me. He called me at night. He was like, "Man, what you doing?" So I was like, "Man, something chilling at the crib." He was like, "Man, you want to come to the studio?" I was like, "Who you working with?" He was like, "Man, you remember this dude named Maxwell from the '90s?" I said, kind of vaguely,
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?" So he was like, "Well, man, they want somebody to come and play organ on some of the music, on some of
right.
the tracks." So I was just like, I was like, all right, cool, I'll come through. So I got there, met Max, met, and my boy Hod, who's, these guys have been like longtime friends of mine now at this point. And so, I go into the studio, and I think one of the first tracks that they pull up was Pretty Wings. And which has been one of Max's iconic songs, that and
Yeah.
the song Bad Habits.
Oh,
And yeah, and from there, that was 2008, and from 2008, still rocking out in 2025. You know what I'm saying? I'm 17 years in the game with my boy Maxwell.
uh, man, yeah, man. Because that's what I'm telling you. He took a break, came back with a whole different look, and
Yep,
it was
he
like,
sure
wow,
did.
man, and stuff. Okay, now from there, now you as a music director, and working with different artists, I mean, it's like it's when they tell you one thing, you give an ID, but like I like that. Let's try this out. When it comes to like showtime performing from a crowd,
Hmm.
and stuff. Okay, now from there you work with oh man, the Queen herself, Aretha Franklin, another
Yeah.
one. Man, you thought to yourself like, man, like how far can I go, man? It's like I keep
Yeah.
climbing, man. Now like now it's one thing you work with Stevie Wonder, Whitney Houston, I know your family was excited.
Hmm.
But when you told your family, what was their reaction working with Aretha Franklin?
Well, see, again, that's my mom's generation. So
Yeah.
when I told my family, my mom and my aunts, and a lot of my family is from Detroit, and they're like Motown, crazed, you know what I'm saying? So when they found out that I was going to be working with Aretha Franklin, they were outdone, and a friend of mine who does PR used to do PR for Gwendolyn Quinn. She's like, Seti, I always tell Aretha about you. So again, another time I'm at home, I'm chilling, and this time caller ID, I'm looking at the phone, and it's probably like 9 o'clock at night, and it
Yeah.
said Aretha Franklin, and my mouth just dropped like, oh my gosh, the Queen of Soul is calling me. So I answer the phone and I say hello, and she was like, hi, may I speak to Shedrick Mitchell, please? And she had this real prim and proper voice. So I was like, how you doing, Miss Franklin? She was like, yes, um, I've been watching a lot of YouTube, and it's just funny to think that the Queen of Soul
Right.
is watching YouTube. So she's like, I love your organ playing. Would you come in and meet me in Canada? I have a bunch of shows, and so I was like, Miss Franklin, I will be honored to. So she was like, thank you very much. Bye bye. Click, and that's it. You know what I'm saying?
Hey,
So the next time I seen her was on stage. You know what I'm saying? And I worked with her up until she passed away,
that's what it is.
so,
Yeah.
but
Now,
yeah, she was amazing.
yeah, you got to do some major specials together. Was with the with like Aretha Franklin sings. Oh, Aretha sings the great diva classics and President Barack Obama. I mean, man, dude, I tell you, man, I would say this though. Every person on the interview have never went to another step like you did, my brother.
Oh,
Not
thank
even
you.
an artist on the interview.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying to say I'm dead serious, man.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this right
No,
here
that's
makes
what's
sense to me,
up.
brother.
Thank,
But
thank you, man.
so to work with, here it is, Whitney Houston, transition, Rita Franklin transition and stuff, Yeah, for there. Now, correct me on this. You received 4 Grammy Award wins.
Yes. So
Man,
now I'm at six.
it's
So
six stuff. Okay,
yeah,
then.
so I've won three with Maxwell, one with Diane Reeves, one with my brother Jeff Keezer, and then the latest one is with the new songbird Samara Joy. This for this particular Grammys.
Well, it's crazy though because like I know like when I was coming up, I thought that only the artists and the producers, only get Grammys. I never thought like a music director or an engineer get a Grammy until like once I got the best. Okay, it makes sense. Like any part you have an artist album or a live
Yes,
album, if
yes,
if you are nominated, yeah, then it's sufficient to you
yes,
and stuff. When you
yes.
got your first Grammy, what was the thoughts in your head that time? You remember?
Good question, man. Bro, you've been doing this for a while, man. You asking all the right questions, man. Well,
Yeah,
so coming up, as a kid, you sit around and, every year watch the Grammys, you know what I mean? But then as you continue growing in your musicianship, you start asking yourself questions like, can I get a Grammy? Can I
yeah,
work with somebody who's a Grammy winning artist?
yeah,
And so those small thoughts become bigger thoughts, and then when you
yeah,
find yourself in a position and becoming nominated for the work that you're doing, and that you've not only just a musician but you're like a producer or arranger, those things is just like wow. So I mean, while I've been fortunate to win six different times, with a few different artists, I probably have 15 nominations, with other
right,
artists that I've worked with that have who did not win, but they were nominated. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Which is an honor within itself as well too.
Wow. Now, has there ever been any talks? I don't know if you ever had this conversation about doing like a compilation album, kind of like how when Quincy Jones had like Back on the Block and other albums like that. Has there ever been that question, or there hasn't really been in the cards, nothing like that?
No, that's that's been talked about with me now for the last couple of years, and especially once Quincy passed away, they was like, "Shed, you need to do a Quincy Jones Back on the Block type of record." You know what I'm saying? With all the
Yeah,
artists that you've worked with, I might be saying too much right now, but like
no,
it's in the work. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
definitely, man. Yeah. Before wrapping up, what do you got next for 2025? I mean, as far as like upcoming show, or whatever.
So I have a few upcoming shows. March 26th, I'm doing a solo piano concert in St. Louis. April 6th, I'm doing a show in Baltimore at Keystone Corner with gospel singer extraordinaire Jason Nelson. And then I have oh, I'm headlining a show in North Carolina, in Charlotte, called the Charlotte Shout. My trio is going to be featured, and in May, I'm finally going to release my trio project called Bedroom Eyes. And if I may, can I just show a picture
Yeah,
of
go ahead.
the vinyl? Yeah. So this
Oh
is
man,
going to
that's
be my
bad,
latest
man.
project. It's not official. It's not officially released yet, but it's coming out in May. So for those who are interested, I have vinyl and CDs, and of course it'll be to be able to be streamed and downloaded, all the things. But May is going to be the officially release of my trio record called Bedroom Eyes.
Oh wow, man! I can imagine, man, what like the standard version sound like. Besides like the format,
Yeah,
like a 3 or 4 minute song. I can imagine like the 7 8 minute would sound
yeah,
like and stuff.
yeah.
Man, but thank you, my brother, for taking the time on here, coming on here. Big shouts to Miss V for setting this interview up, and thank
Thank
you
you,
all for coming
Zelda.
on here, man,
Thank you, bro.
and stuff, man.
Yeah,
And
man.
hopefully,
And,
man, you come. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, man, thank you for having me, man. And I really appreciate your platform, for the exposure, man. I tell people, when you do get invited, you show up. You know what I'm saying? So I want to thank
Absolutely,
you and Elder, you know what I'm saying, for giving me the opportunity and the platform to share my music and talk through my experience. So bless you both, man.
absolutely, man. You ever come to Louisville, Kentucky, man? I'm definitely going to get a ticket, man, for
Hey,
sure.
I got you, bro. And where you at again? You in?
Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, bro, say less, man. I'm coming, bro. I'm coming.
Yeah.
I'll
Oh yeah,
keep you
definitely, man.
posted.
Okay,
I'll
you
keep
got
you
it, man.
posted. Thank you,
Shoot.
bro.
With that being said, man, you have a blessed one, man.
Thank you, bro. Peace, man.
Yeah, peace.